I'm sorry, my beloved microsquirrels, but your time in our rainforest has come to an end. You all have been an asset to our biodiverse ecosystem, but circumstances make it necessary to remove your entire colony from our rainforest within glass. Fear not, my precious microsquirrels, for I have prepared for you a final destination. Your ultimate resting place of complete and utter peace. Promise, this transition will be quick and painless. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. I'll be honest, this episode was really tough to make. I had grown fond of watching these two sleep soundly behind the rock wall. Now, as much as I loved these and the other microsquirrels living in our grand triple vivarium rainforest, how many of which, by the way, I still actually didn't know there were, it was time for them to go. The trap lay on the floor of Orcadia, my giant tree canopy vivarium, where the majority of the colony was living. This needed to be done, as the microsquirrels were breeding so quickly and the main prey insect populations of crickets and dubia roaches had gone extinct from our forest. Cycling out all major predators is actually one of the rules of this project, in place to ensure sustainability of our ecosystem project. I just didn't think it would be this soon for the microsquirrels. This was also all part of a grand and year-long plan and promise I made with Valentino, my senior green tree python, a promise I was close to finally fulfilling. But the microsquirrels were scheduled to wake up at dusk, so while waiting, I had to undo some of the work of the microsquirrels. First up was Pandora, my giant cloud rainforest floor vivarium. I dumped the brand new colonizers of black crickets onto the Pandoran floor. Immediately, they began to feast. There was so much here to eat, from seeds to grasses and leaf litter, all of which had been sitting around for a while since the former population of crickets went extinct. Females began to lay eggs into the rich soils. Crickets also began to engage in territorial disputes. The quails were in a bit of a shock at all these crickets running around. Most of them were adults and were much too large for them to eat. They continued to feed on their seed sprouts, which were now going away fast. The sight was intense, watching such an ultimate cricket gold rush, a free-for-all buffet from a forest that had plenty of space and food for them to flourish. It was so awesome to see a grand return of the crickets to our rainforest. But not without limiters, for our rainforest had its methods of making sure no one prey creature overpopulates. Some, like this tree frog, were still asleep and would be waking up at night, while others were definitely up and were waiting for such a swarm. Snap, our resident sun skink, was licking her lips after having fed on a ton of crickets somewhere in the shadows. Look at how fat she is now. She had eaten enough for the day and had no interest in eating more. She climbed onto the driftwood to bask and digest. Now, though Snap eats a lot, I don't think she was a major player responsible for the great cricket extinction, because we've had up to 3 adult sunskinks in our forest before, and the cricket population survived them, mostly due to the fact that the crickets could breed and proliferate up in Orcadia, away from the sunskinks who were floor-bound. Of course, things were different now, but I knew that would all be fixed soon. But in the meantime, while Pandora and Orcadia were undergoing a restoration, our third vivarium, Hydromeda, was due for the opposite. Hydromeda, for most of its life, has been largely pristine and untransformed. The fish had no predators, the plants had no herbivores to cut them back, except for maybe a population of tadpoles, but most of them had all developed into froglets now. And the sands and soils were still neat and looking manicured. Now, all of this was okay for the first several months of Hydromeda's existence, because the aquatic system needed time to develop, balance out, and truly bloom. But I felt the time had come to add in its limiters, messengers of change. And after spinning the wheel of Gaia last week, our ecosystem event randomizer, it chose for the addition of a group of creatures that I truly love. These creatures were waiting in their bags. You guys will love them. Let's open them up. Opening the first bag, they floated down to the Hydromedan floor. This was our new population of pom-pom crabs, native to Southeast Asia. They're called pom-pom crabs because of the tufts of fur that exist on their claws. They were super cute. Have a look. They eagerly began to explore their new home. Oh, looks like they can get frisky with their fellow crustaceans. They immediately began to sort through the greenery for edibles. Now, we aren't certain what the hair on their claws and even certain areas of their body is for. I figured it might be to catch edible particles floating through the water, but this species apparently isn't quite a filter feeder like that. But I decided to add these crabs in because I felt they would help transform our aquatic ecosystem, as they form burrows in sand and may even nibble at the plants. They each began to find spots around Hydromeda in which to retreat. I was so happy for them to join our aquatic ecosystem. Up next was another messenger of change that I knew for sure would have a massive impact on Hydromeda, at least as time goes on. Releasing them now. Guys, presenting our new blue crayfish. One of them immediately began to explore. This was still a baby, less than an inch long, but in my experience with these crustaceans, they will surely shake things up in Hydromeda. First, they create extensive burrows, so they'll definitely be moving the sand and soil around. They eat plants, so they'll be tearing up some of the vegetation, and they will eat any meat they can catch. But we probably won't notice their impact for another few months, until they grow older. The other baby blue crayfish had settled into the shadows, where he began to inspect his new home. Welcome to the wetlands, little ones. Make yourselves at home. I'm certain you guys will love it here. I look forward to watching you two grow and seeing how you guys impact our aquatic ecosystem over time. But going back to restoring the ecosystem on land, it was time to add crickets to Orcadia. They dispersed in all directions, exploring their new home. I wasn't 100% sure if the microsquirrels were responsible for the extinction of the crickets, but they were highly sus. A few weeks back, I removed some chubby frogs, which eat tiny newborn crickets, as well as ants, and one of the chubby frogs, Beyonce, had made her way all the way up to Orcadia, where she was probably gobbling up a ton of cricket hatchlings. It could have been Beyonce? If ever, the microsquirrels probably led to the dubia roach extinction in our forest, their favorite food. I would be adding in dubia roaches again once our microsquirrels were all out. But for that to happen, we needed our trap to work. Night fell in our rainforest. A male cricket was wandering the grass, rather uncautiously, but he didn't know this was a big mistake in the forest. Not having grown up in these unforgiving lands and learning the ways of the forest were about to be his ultimate downfall. Shortcake, our resident strawberry Pac-Man frog, was awake for her nightly prowl. One of the things I discovered about Pac-Man frogs that is contrary to many online sources is that they don't like to stay put in a single spot for most of their lives and wait for prey to come to it. I've discovered after moving her into Pandora that she actually covers quite a bit of nightly distance, trying out several posts in which to station herself during the day. The male cricket came by, not knowing his journey was about to end. Bam! And chomp! Shortcake swallowed him swiftly. She had had several of these newly added crickets now. She hopped forward as another one in the shadows caught her attention. I laughed as Sunny the Quail spotted Shortcake and turned right around. Guess it knew to stay clear of Shortcake. Behind the rock wall, I noticed the microsquirrels were waking up and beginning to move around. It was actually amazing to notice the extensive tunnel work they created in the loose moss back here. This moss wall was initially designed to house insects that love tight spaces, but so cool to see that the microsquirrels have found the area suitable to establish a nest. It seemed like these two microsquirrels were bonded. As I watched them play patty cake, my heart sank, knowing what I was about to do. The microsquirrels were about to be separated, at least in this world. I headed up to Arcadia to check our trap. I shone a light on the trap, and to my surprise, it had shut, but no microsquirrel was inside. I guess the microsquirrels jumped on top of the trap and set it off. What a disappointment. I removed the microsquirrel's bowl and placed it back into the banyan tree. I needed a better plan. Little did I know, the rainforest was about to give me clues as to how to succeed in our quest to trap the microsquirrels through certain signs beginning the next day. The next morning, I spotted one of the sapphire royals, the name chosen for my new and gorgeous blue ant colony, feeding on a slice of mango. I can't get over how beautiful these ants are, and I was so grateful to have them now living in our rainforest. I was happy to see the blue ants loving the mango, as I've been trying to learn more about the species, particularly what they like to eat, and I can see now that they love fruit, like mango. I also caught them feeding from the watermelon pieces in the microsquirrel's food bowl and heading back to their discreet nest in the driftwood. I really wanted the sapphire royals to thrive, so I added more mangoes to provide our blue ants the carbs they needed. But the thing that I found the most intriguing was what I found of the mangoes the next day. Check it out. The edges of the mangoes had been eaten overnight, and one mango was completely carried away from its original spot. I was certain this was the microsquirrel's work. It was then that an idea came to me. I know. Let's try mango. This time, I took my trap and attached an entire mango pit with flesh onto the trigger. One small move of this mango pit would surely cause the door to shut. I placed the trap into Arcadia. This time on this side, where I felt the microsquirrels were less likely to jump onto it from above, and left it there overnight. The next day, I checked the trap and was disappointed to see that the trap was empty, with the door still open. But get this, examining the trap, I was shocked to see the mango had actually been eaten, meaning a microsquirrel had entered and ate the mango so carefully that it didn't trigger the trap door. Man, how on earth did that happen? Heading back to Arcadia, I was a bit sad, because I knew I couldn't just let the microsquirrels continue to proliferate unchecked in our forest, but couldn't figure out how to catch them. It was then that the forest gave me another sign. I spotted a giant huntsman feeding on a cricket. Man, these spiders have been such a success story in our forest. This was one of the 7th or 8th generation of huntsmen now, OGs from the first season, and still thriving. I also spotted an American cockroach, another newly added species, who was completely out in the open and not touched by the microsquirrels. Guess the microsquirrels prefer dubias. Wait a sec. An idea came to me. Thank you, Arcadia. It was time to try another setup. This time, I added the mango at the bottom of the trap, which I believed was a good bait to lure them in, but still too soft to trigger the trapdoor. And for the trigger, I added this, a live dubia roach. I felt bad to do this, but this was in my mind the only way. The dubias have completely disappeared from our rainforest due to overhunting, and I was certain the microsquirrels missed the taste of their favorite meat. Plus the hard exoskeleton of the roach required the microsquirrels to tug on it, to chew on it. It was really skewered on there. Hopefully the microsquirrels would wander in to nibble the mango, discover the living roach, then snatch it and trigger the trapdoor to shut. Heading up to Arcadia to lay the trap down, I stopped dead in my tracks. A microsquirrel was out and eating from one of the mangoes I placed in. Such a cute creature, an awesome species. You know, if this trap actually works, and we eventually completely remove every microsquirrel from the forest, one thing was for sure: I would miss them. Some people in the comments have said that adding the microsquirrels into the forest was a mistake from the get-go. But inside, I never once felt so. Though it's true that as mammals, they consume a lot more food than many other creatures in the forest, this also meant that they were the greatest processors and producers of nutrients, i.e. their poop and urine, which benefit the plants and other creatures who eat their waste. The microsquirrels may have a high intake, but also have a high output, which is beneficial to an ecosystem as nutrients move around faster. Eating copious amounts of insects, indeed, may have completely wiped some long-established lineages of herbivorous insects clean, but this has allowed more plants, like grasses, to grow in for the first time, which would never have stood a chance with crickets around. You see, for those hoping for some equilibrium, where the entire ecosystem achieves balance, where nothing changes and nothing new happens, you can watch the later half of Season 3, where we kind of achieve that. The episodes, though awesome, are some of the most repetitive episodes, reporting the same things over and over again, with very little changes, and nothing new to learn. It's great and all, kinda like a sealed terrarium in a jar, where nothing leaves and nothing enters, but this scenario doesn't quite happen in nature. In the wild, various species, be they plant, animal, or fungi, naturally come into a space the size of our rainforest all the time, leaving their unique mark and impact. Some integrate seamlessly and remain a resident forever, while others leave or die if conditions aren't favorable, or if they get hunted. This is exactly what I've been hoping to emulate with our forest, and so far we've been successful at replicating that constant movement of species in and out of the system, documenting how each changes the forest along the way during the residency. Aside from this, the knowledge alone has been invaluable. In the over 5 months that the microsquirrels became part of our forest, we learned so much, like how fast a microsquirrel colony can grow, how much territory they cover when foraging, their food preferences, nesting preferences, and social behaviors. In science, and honestly life in general, I believe there are no mistakes, always just new knowledge. I've called this Season 5 Events, because when ecological events happen, we learn more, and it drives the constant growth and evolution of our rainforest ecosystem. I was grateful for the insight the microsquirrels provided us on the inner workings of Mother Nature. They were not a mistake. It was just time for their reign to end now. As had this been in the wild, they would have left our forest the moment the dubias went extinct. I laid the trap down and decided to come back to check the trap early the next morning. And AC family, you won't believe what happened. In the morning, only one microsquirrel was nested behind the rock wall. Oh man, I ran upstairs to check Orcadia. And within the trap, check out what I saw. We caught one! The microsquirrel was trying its hardest to chew through the metal. We did it! My heart raced. It was time for the next step. Come with me. Don't be frightened, little one. I have prepared your final destination. An ultimate resting place of complete and utter peace. Promise, this will be quick and painless. Valentino, my promise to you shall be fulfilled. Soon. Vote in my community tab to affect this story.